Engaged at 22, I've been drowning in misery. He treats me like I'm not his equal and his parents bulldoze our wedding. After endless fights over exes and guest lists, I'm left feeling numb. Will I walk away before June or suffer through it all? I am a 22-year-old female and he is a 28-year-old male. We met in August 2023 and quickly began dating. I even happened to meet his parents on our first date, which was both cute and funny. It was the best first date ever, swimming in a waterfall, having coffee, embarking on an adventure, and concluding the day with an evening at his home sauna accompanied by ice cream. The date lasted approximately 8 hours. He expressed interest in pursuing a serious relationship. He was very respectful, so much so that I initially wondered if he might be gay because he hardly made any physical advances until I took the initiative. By Thanksgiving, which I hosted for my friends, he assisted with the organization and we exchanged our I love yous. The relationship appeared to be perfect. I opened up about my past and he did the same. The only hiccup occurred when he stated he was going out with friends, inviting me along, and then informed me during the car ride that we would actually be meeting his ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend, along with another male friend. This ex was his first girlfriend from when they were both 16, his first everything, including intimacy. Let us refer to her as Gabriella. I was not comfortable with that. Even though they were just friends, I found it strange, especially since I had not received a heads up. Gabriella's boyfriend also seemed uneasy. I had a significant issue with it. My trust felt compromised. I contemplated ending our relationship, but we discussed it and I ultimately decided to stay. We began discussing marriage. He brought it up along with plans for having children and timelines. He did not want to wait. Then he traveled to visit his grandmother in Europe for over a month throughout Christmas and New Year's. I stayed home but took a mini trip with friends closer to home. It was challenging being alone. I missed him. When he returned, his tone had shifted. He no longer seemed eager to rush into marriage. I reached the same conclusion, but it felt hurtful to hear it from him. He appeared cold. I also disliked that he made the decision without consulting me. However, over time, things began to improve. In February, we attended an event where we encountered another one of his ex-girlfriends. She was uncomfortably friendly, attempting to dance with me and lavishing compliments on us. Strangely, this experience somewhat eased the tension, but it also ignited further concerns for me regarding his exes. We planned to travel that summer. I wanted to visit Europe, and he initially agreed but later retracted, stating he needed to spend time with his grandmother. He insisted he could not spend less than 3 weeks helping her in his village. He also insisted he had to be present for his friend's birthday, which later turned out to be on the wrong date. He had mixed it up. Ultimately, he was set on his trip and would not compromise. I organized everything in an attempt to make it work, but still, it was no use. Eventually, we decided to go to his homeland for the entire month. He promised that next time we would go to Europe. It coincidentally worked out because my brother ended up getting married there as well. For the record, I paid for my own tickets and everything else. The compromise was to visit another city, quite far from his village for a while, but every day was a struggle just to make that happen. We went, and it was incredibly enjoyable. However, we also argued quite a bit. During the trip, I discovered he was messaging almost all his exes or maintaining contact with many of them, Gabriella and another girl he had casually hooked up with back home. He followed all his exes on social media, and they would like and comment on each other's posts. I despised it. It put me in a sour mood. He was also very irritable regarding anything I desired. Essentially, he counted down the days until he could reunite with his grandmother. It was difficult. Whenever he felt tired, he would get angry, irritable, and treat me as if everything was my fault. He intended to propose during the trip, but it never came to fruition. There were enjoyable moments, and I tried to maintain a positive atmosphere, but I grew tired too. Upon our return, his parents suggested we go camping across the country. We booked the trip. We had a major dispute because I was fed up with his communication with other girls. Additionally, he would not text me first, would not ask me on dates, and would not come to see me. I would visit him once a week or less, and he did not appear to care. Yet he had no issue spending time playing video games with his friend. I asked him to come back and talk with me. He said it was not urgent and that he would see me tomorrow. That night, I conveyed my desire to break up with him. The following day, he arrived, apologizing and refusing to accept the breakup. He persuaded me to go on the trip. The drive lasted 2 days, absolute hell. He complained about driving incessantly. It was exasperating, constant arguing. We finally arrived. I wanted to end things. I was done. The trip felt ruined, yet another opportunity squandered. During the trip, he took me on a date showing me around, and then on the beach he asked me to marry him. I am unsure why I said yes. We experienced challenging times, truly difficult ones, but we also had wonderful moments. We drove home the next day. The atmosphere was off, but I did my best to appear excited and happy. He continued to complain about driving, although not as much. He did not initially want to inform his parents about our engagement, claiming they would become overly excited. I insisted that we call them. I began telling my family and friends. His family was kind to me, everyone seemed pleased. For the next 2 months, things were relatively smooth, no fighting. Then his parents became heavily involved. His mother found a venue and started pressuring us for a decision. I did not appreciate it, but we visited it anyway. It was inexpensive but required a substantial amount of work, which would have cost as much as a nicer venue. He disagreed and we fought about it. From the outset, all I ever wanted was to elope. He maintained that the wedding was about making his parents happy, that was its purpose. My parents were relaxed about it. His mother aggressively opposed my plan for a 2-year engagement. She even obtained my parents' agreement to hasten the wedding. Each day began to feel unbearable, and eventually I capitulated. We settled on a June wedding. They preferred winter or May, but that was too quick. I conducted all the research and found a venue that suited his outdoorsy style and budget. It was slightly over budget, but still remarkably inexpensive compared to the wedding market. Then began the disputes over the guest count. We had another argument regarding the exes. He assisted Gabriella's parents again, contacting them without informing me. I was completely exhausted. He assured me that there would be no more contact. He did not seem to grasp why it was a significant issue. He even joked that if it were not for me, Gabriella would have been his groomsgirl. We reconciled. Then he decided that his parents would have free reign over the guest list. Literally, he did not even offer me names or disclose who the individuals were. No limit. I pleaded for a total of 50 guests to keep costs down and because I dislike unfamiliar faces. He refused. He wanted a large wedding. We agreed on 70 total guests, an even split. However, he later reneged on that agreement, allowing his mother to invite 60 people from their side alone. Over time, the guest list continued to expand. He did not care about my desires. I was always portrayed as the antagonist. There were no compromises made. I was managing everything. His mother began crossing boundaries, agreeing with a baker regarding our cake without keeping us informed, purchasing shoes and dresses she liked for me, which were unattractive. Once I sent her images of the wedding dresses I tried on, and she remarked that I looked like a middle-aged divorcee and should look for inexpensive dresses on Shein or AliExpress. I cried. He spoke to her, but it was not particularly effective. For context, I was paying for my dress. Their only concerns about costs revolved around my preferences. The guest count had to accommodate everyone they wished to invite. It was minor issues every other day traditions imposed upon us. Whenever I disagreed, I was cast in the role of the antagonist. I requested that he assert himself to her, but his position was that the wedding was for the parents. Meanwhile, I was still in university, organizing the entire wedding, covering half if not more of the expenses, and receiving zero assistance-only criticism. This lasted for months. Occasionally, we argued about his neglectful behavior, his lack of knowledge about the wedding, and accusations that I was demanding expensive things despite my efforts to keep costs down through DIY projects. Then we fought again about when to start a family. He wanted children 1 year after the wedding. I wanted to finish university 5th year, gain a year of work experience, and achieve financial stability, not live in his parents' house. He asserted that he was the man and I was not his equal, thus he had the authority to make decisions and I had to respect them. He does not earn much money because he is self-employed and dislikes office jobs. I desire stability, I want to feel secure. We had a massive argument, his parents became involved. I drank too much and shared everything with them. How I was planning everything, covering half the expenses, receiving no support while he played video games. I asserted that he did not love me, which was fine, we could separate. The following day, he was initially angry that I spoke negatively about him. I am not proud of that, but they were facts, not insults. Then he apologized and promised to change. For 3 weeks, he was an exceptional boyfriend. He did not shut me out when I cried. He cared about the wedding. He informed me when he would be late. He displayed affection I had never witnessed before. Yet I felt emotionally exhausted. It hurt to see him finally perform the actions I had begged him to take for months. Even now, he believes nothing has changed, that he has always acted this way. But I find myself again pleading for basic needs. I ask him when he plans to start building the house extension so we could have space, and I am met with groans, as if I am a warden rather than a partner. He still complains. It is 1 month before the wedding. I have cried daily for the past month. I feel miserable. I no longer think I love him. Even during the joyful moments, I feel numb. I harbor resentment toward him. Now, even when he does kind things, I cannot appreciate them. I am uncertain about what actions to take. So many people are invited, it would be so embarrassing to walk away now. I attempted to discuss with him how I dislike living with his parents, about their negativity and irritability, and how I do not even have space for my belongings in his room, but nothing changes. He is only kind when he senses I might actually leave. I am afraid I feel lost. Help me understand this situation, please. Story 2. My boyfriend forbade me from talking to other men, but after losing my best friend, I felt utterly alone. Trying to make friends, I befriended a guy who became my confidant. When I confessed, I just need someone to listen, I panicked about crossing lines. Was I cheating? Okay, so it began when I was in Brazil with my boyfriend 2 summers ago. My best friend from childhood died in an accident. This was very difficult for me. I felt immense sadness and guilt because I had not spoken to him or responded to his messages over the previous 3 months, as my boyfriend had told me I was not allowed to communicate with any other men, including my old friends. I left Brazil for the funeral, and my boyfriend was upset that I left, as his family resides in Brazil and I was meant to be there with them. However, I had to attend the funeral. I recall feeling that my boyfriend did not seem to understand how devastating this loss was for me. During that time, I felt incredibly lonely and hurt by the loss of my friend. Anyway, my boyfriend and I got into many arguments while he was in Brazil and I was back home. I expressed to him how I felt that he did not care for me, among other things. He said he was trying to enjoy his time with his family, which I understood because he seldom got to see them. However, we ended up with a lot of tension, and amidst my emotional pain, I threatened to break up. We often threatened this, but it had never been serious. I remember he actually agreed this time. I told him no, that I was just angry and assumed, as usual, we would work through it. But this time felt different. He called me and expressed doubt about how we could make it work and mentioned wanting his future children to be with his family in Brazil one day. This shattered me. I had never felt such pain. I was unable to eat, lost 15 pounds, and struggled to sleep. It was honestly the lowest point I had ever reached, fearing I would lose him. Ultimately, we were fine, but my fear had intensified. Before this, I had anticipated an engagement that summer. I believed he would propose, but then this happened, his desire to break up. He reassured me that he did not want to, but for the first time, I was not genuinely sure if he wanted me. He returned to the United States and things felt very awkward. I felt terrible because I was consumed by the fear of losing him. I was also disheartened that we were not engaged yet. When we went back to college, we attend different schools, things remained strange. It was as though I was uncertain about his feelings for me, which made me anxious and upset. I felt like my behavior was annoying him. Additionally, this was my senior year of college and there were significant changes on campus. My best friend and former roommate moved off campus, so I rarely saw her. My sister, my current roommate, was in a relationship with someone on campus and was frequently with that boyfriend. Many of my close friends graduated. I felt extremely isolated. I remember eating alone in my dorm every day. It felt strange, like I was a loner and something was wrong with me. I had lost my best friend in the car accident and genuinely felt like I had no one to spend time with. I had my boyfriend to text and call, but no one on campus to be with. I have always struggled with worrying about my image to the world. I did not want to be seen as a girl without a social circle or friends, so I decided to try to make some new friends. I prayed to God for help in forming friendships. Still, nothing changed. All the girls on campus appeared to already have established social circles. After all, I was a senior and no longer viewed as someone who needed to engage in small groups to make friends. I remember trying so hard to talk to people, yet nothing stuck. I am relatively quiet and have always relied on others to engage with me to build friendships. Therefore, it felt unusual for me to attempt to make friends. I recall one day walking to class when a guy I had seen before introduced himself. He asked for my name and major the typical conversation starters. Later that day, I noticed he added me on Instagram. I accepted his request, intrigued. This may seem odd, but I have always assumed that when men do this, they have an interest in me. However, since I attend a Christian college, I thought he might just be being friendly. As time passed, one day I posted an Instagram story about a Starbucks drink, asking which one was better, allowing people to vote. He commented that neither was good and that Dunkin' was superior. I was pleased he commented because it indicated he was paying attention to me and remembered who I was. Our conversation began as I told him that Starbucks was far better. He mentioned he had never tried Starbucks, so I suggested we go together so he could experience how much better it was than Dunkin'. I felt excited, thinking this was my opportunity to make a friend. I have always found it easier to befriend men than women. Men are generally easier to connect with if they find you attractive, they usually want to befriend you. I figured this was the case with him, that he probably had a crush on me, which was why he was talking to me. However, I found it interesting that I had many pictures of my boyfriend and me kissing on my Instagram, so I was unsure about his intentions since he clearly saw that I was in a relationship. The following day, I was going home for the weekend. I deleted our messages and did not text him that weekend because I did not want my boyfriend to see and get angry, stating I could not talk to him. My boyfriend disapproves of me having male friends and has been upset in the past if I texted any guy, regardless of how distant our relationship was. I returned that week and decided to text this guy again. He casually asked how my weekend had been. I felt excited to have a friend on campus I could spend time with, someone to do things with so I wouldn't feel alone. I hoped he would genuinely want to be my friend. I remember texting him and he asked what I was up to. I replied I was bored and studying. He asked if I wanted to study with him and I agreed, going to meet him. Before meeting him, I put on some makeup because I did not want him to think I looked unattractive or uncaring, which might deter him from wanting to be friends. We studied together and he asked how my summer was. I shared that it was awful because I had lost my best friend. I went on to explain that it had been difficult after that as well due to my relationship struggles. I mentioned this partly because it was true, partly because I wanted him to be aware of my boyfriend, and partly because I subconsciously hoped this would make him want to be my friend, thinking that he might be more inclined to pursue our friendship if he believed my boyfriend and I were experiencing issues. I was uncertain if he liked me, as in having a crush, but I knew that many of my male friends had secretly harbored feelings for me and later admitted it, which was part of their desire to befriend me. This made me feel as though I wanted a friend. Even if it was merely a guy who secretly had a crush on me, at least I would gain a friend regardless of his intentions. I was aware that I did not find him attractive and would never want to date him, so I did not believe I was doing anything wrong. I knew I would never end my relationship with my boyfriend for him or ever cross a boundary in my mind that would constitute cheating, like flirting or anything physical. Therefore, I thought if he was somewhat interested in me, perhaps he would want to develop a friendship. I could ensure that I would not reciprocate those feelings and everything would be fine. He then expressed his sympathy, and I found myself crying without intending to. Discussing those matters made me emotional. I felt foolish for being so vulnerable, but it was difficult for me to talk about my summer, which had been traumatic. He gave me a hug goodbye, I think because he felt sorry for me for crying. Later, he texted me and I apologized for breaking down in front of him when he barely knew me. He said it was okay and that he was glad to be there to listen. I considered how he was a Christian and likely felt compelled to be kind. Days later, while I was getting coffee on campus, he started speaking to me again. I felt happy to have someone to share coffee with. We discussed various topics and I mentioned one of my female friends he could talk to. He shared details about his family and I remember asking about his celebrity crushes, hoping to encourage him to like my friend. He then inquired about mine. I expressed a few names, pondering whether he was asking because he had a crush on me. I made sure not to flirt with him. Then I asked if he would like to get Starbucks after class. He agreed that he would pick me up. During the ride, he spoke about various topics, including where he was from. He then inquired about how my boyfriend and I were faring. I shared some concerns I had. Upon reflection, I realized I knew bringing this up might ignite hope in him that we would break up, granting him a chance, but I knew I would never end my relationship with my boyfriend, so I did not find it wrong. I enjoyed having someone listen to my thoughts and give me their attention, making me feel cared for. I often followed up my concerns with assurances that I loved my boyfriend and could not let go of him. These concerns were genuine, but I exaggerated their seriousness because I knew I wanted to be with my boyfriend and marry him. A part of me felt anger toward my boyfriend just because I wanted him to propose already. I simply wanted to marry him. I never questioned whether I wanted to be with him during this period. Once again, I mentioned my female friend to him, attempting to demonstrate that I was trying to set him up with someone. I observed his reaction to see if he hesitated, suggesting he liked me. However, he stated he liked her. This worried me as I knew if they started dating, I would be in a similar situation to before. He would spend time with her like my sister does with her boyfriend, and I would again feel isolated. This realization saddened me not because I wanted to date him, but because if he were in a relationship, I would be left without anyone to hang out with again. He paid for my coffee, which felt a bit strange, but I remembered an old male friend used to do that too. While sipping my coffee, I spilled some on my hand and he cleaned it with his finger, which I found a little odd, but I also appreciated that he seemed to care. I think I craved human contact and care deeply. I never found him attractive. He was honestly the farthest thing from my type. He offered me his jacket as we left because it was freezing. I declined to wear it as I felt that gesture was reserved for my boyfriend. I simply held it in my lap in the car because I did not want to be rude. Anyway, I attempted to set him up with another friend. I also wanted him and my boyfriend to meet eventually. I hoped they could become friends one day, but I was unsure how to facilitate that without my boyfriend becoming upset that I had a male friend. I remember texting him the softball roster, as I am on the softball team, asking which player he would be interested in. He replied that none were really his type, which made me ponder if he truly did not find me attractive. It was interesting because most of my male friends would typically express interest in someone, hinting they liked me. I felt a bit down, thinking maybe I was unattractive, but then I reassured myself that I did not want him anyway. I later told my boyfriend everything that had transpired. I had researched online whether having a male friend was inappropriate, and many suggested that keeping it a secret was the issue, which led me to disclose everything. I did not wish to do anything wrong or hurt my boyfriend. I loved him, but I simply desired companionship at that time. I also reminded myself that if my boyfriend and I broke up, I would never date this friend. It would simply be comforting to have someone there as a friend. This male friend was unattractive to me, and upon deeper reflection, I realized I did not care much about who he was as a person. I did not pay attention to his words or what made him interesting. I only appreciated that he showed interest in me. Once I told my boyfriend, I immediately ceased contact with this guy. I noticed that I did not feel bothered by not having him in my life anymore. It did not upset me at all to cut him off. I have been consumed by fear after researching cheating. I never thought I was crossing any lines at the time because I believed I was setting boundaries, so now I feel deeply anxious. I have been quite distressed over the past year, waking up every morning worried about whether I had cheated. I have thought about this fear every second of every day.